You know that moment when your life turns into a bad country song? Yeah, that's where I found myself at 3 in the morning, staring at my phone like it had just told me Santa Claus was dead. The text from Maya read, "Fell asleep at my friend's place. Don't wait up." Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. My name's Ray Harlan, and I used to be a cop. These days I run security for corporate events and cheating spouse investigations. The irony wasn't lost on me that I'd been too stupid to see what was happening in my own house. I'd been suspicious for weeks. Maya had been working late at the real estate office more often than a vampire avoids sunlight. New perfume, phone always face down, and I'd found lingerie tags in the trash that definitely weren't for my benefit. Unless she thought I'd suddenly developed a thing for red lace that cost more than my car payment. But the tracker I'd planted on her phone 2 days ago, that little piece of technology was singing a different tune. According to the GPS, Maya wasn't at Brittany's house like she'd been claiming. She was at 1247 Oak Street. I knew that address because I'd done my homework. Zach Kessler's place, her high school sweetheart turned tech startup golden boy. I poured myself 3 fingers of bourbon and considered my options. I could drive over there, bang on the door, and make a scene that would end up on someone's Ring doorbell. I could wait until morning and pretend I believed her story. Or I could do what any self-respecting man with a wicked sense of humor would do. I grabbed my camera with the telephoto lens and took a little drive. Oak Street was quiet, lined with those trendy townhouses that cost more than most people make in 5 years. Zach's BMW sat in the driveway next to Maya's Honda. How romantic. The living room curtains were open just enough for me to get a perfect shot of my wife of 8 years curled up on Zach's couch, wearing nothing but his oversized shirt. He was bringing her coffee, playing the perfect host. I snapped the photo and sent it to Maya with a simple message. Say hi to your ex. Then I drove home, poured another bourbon, and waited for the fireworks. My phone started buzzing within minutes. First one call, then another. By the time I finished my drink, I had 47 missed calls and enough text messages to write a novel. Maya's panic was practically vibrating through the screen. Ray, I can explain. It's not what it looks like. Please answer your phone. I'm coming home. I turned the phone face down and smiled. After 3 months of feeling like an idiot, watching my wife lie to my face while she played house with her ex, I finally had the upper hand. Let the games begin. Maya burst through the front door at 4:30 in the morning like she was being chased by demons. Her hair was a mess, makeup smeared, and she still smelled like Zach's cologne. She found me sitting in my recliner, nursing my 3rd bourbon. Ray, baby, I can explain everything, she started, but I held up my hand. Save it, Maya. I've got all night. She launched into this elaborate story about how she'd been helping Zach with a business emergency and lost track of time. How she'd fallen asleep on his couch while they were going over contracts. How it was all perfectly innocent. The whole time, I had my phone recording. In my state, you only need one party's consent for audio recordings, and I was definitely consenting. So you're telling me, I said when she finished her performance, that you've been at Zach's place 3 nights this week for business? Yes. Ray, you have to believe me. Nothing happened. And the red lingerie I found in the trash? That was for business too? Her face went white. I wanted to surprise you. By throwing it away? She started crying then, but I'd seen Maya's tears before. She could turn them on like a faucet when she needed sympathy. The next morning, I called my old partner, Tony Alvarez. Tony had stayed on the force and loved drama almost as much as he loved his wife's cooking. You want me to do what? He asked when I explained my situation. Just keep your ears open. Maya's friends talk, and you know how gossip travels in this town. Ray, you sure you want to go down this road? Sometimes it's better not to know. I already know, Tony. Now I want proof. That afternoon, I paid a visit to Maya's favorite coffee shop, where her friends Brittany and Lena held court every Tuesday. I sat in the corner with a newspaper and listened to them trash talk half the women in town. Maya's been glowing lately, Brittany was saying. Must be nice having two men fighting over you. I still can't believe she's going through with it, Lena replied. I mean, Ray's not that bad. Please, Zach's got money, looks, and he actually listens when she talks. Ray just grunts and watches sports. Still, 8 years of marriage. That's gotta count for something. Not when your high school boyfriend comes back to town driving a Tesla. I'd heard enough. These women had been in my house, eaten my food, pretended to like me while knowing exactly what Maya was doing behind my back. Time to return the favor. I followed Brittany to her car and approached her as she was loading her shopping bags. Hey, Brittany. Funny running into you here. She jumped, like I'd caught her robbing a bank. Oh, Ray, hi. I was just shopping. I heard. Interesting conversation you had with Lena in there. Her face went through about 6 different shades of red. I don't know what you mean. Sure you do, but don't worry, I'm not mad at you. You're just being a good friend to Maya. I get it. I leaned against her car, casual as could be. But since we're being honest, maybe you can help me understand something. How long has this thing with Zach been going on? Brittany looked like she wanted to crawl into her trunk and hide. Ray, I really can't. 3 months? 6 months? Since he moved back to town last year? I should go. You know what's funny? Maya told me she was with you last night. But you were at book club, weren't you? At the library. I saw your Instagram post. That did it. Brittany's shoulders sagged, and she started talking. Not because she wanted to help me, but because she was terrified I'd expose her as a liar too. It started about 4 months ago, she said quietly. They ran into each other at that new restaurant downtown. Maya said it was just coffee at first, but what? She's been talking about leaving you, Ray. She and Zach have been looking at houses together. She thinks you don't know, but Zach's been showing her properties through his connections. My blood went cold. It was one thing to have an affair. It was another to plan a whole new life while pretending everything was fine at home. Thanks for being honest, Brittany. I appreciate it. I started to walk away, then turned back. Oh, and Brittany? Maya's going to ask you to lie for her again. Probably tonight. Just remember, I've got a very good memory, and I don't forget people who help me or people who don't. That evening, I drove to Zach's office building. His tech startup, Innovate Tech Solutions, occupied the 3rd floor of a glass building downtown. I waited in the parking garage until I saw him heading to his car. Zach Kessler looked exactly like what he was. A guy who'd never been punched in the face, but probably deserved it. Perfectly styled hair, expensive suit, and the kind of smug expression that made you want to introduce his nose to your fist. Instead, I introduced his car to a bag of shrimp shells I'd been saving in my trunk. While he was still upstairs, I opened his BMW's air vents and stuffed them full of rotting seafood. Then I left a note under his windshield wiper. Thought your car could use some character. It was smelling too clean. A friend. The smell would hit him gradually as he drove, getting worse as the heater kicked in. By tomorrow, his precious BMW would smell like a fish market dumpster, and the stench would be nearly impossible to get out of the ventilation system. It was petty, juvenile, and absolutely perfect. But as I was leaving, I overheard something that made my blood boil. Zach was on his phone in the stairwell, and his voice carried down to the garage. Don't worry, baby. Ray's too stupid to figure it out. By the time he realizes what's happening, we'll be long gone with everything. Everything turned out to be more than just my wife. The next morning brought 2 pieces of interesting news. First, Maya came home smelling like she'd bathed in guilt and cheap apologies. Second, Tony called with information that made me want to put my fist through a wall. Your wife's been busy, Ray, Tony said over coffee at our usual diner. I ran those names you gave me through some databases. Zach Kessler's got his fingers in a lot of pies, and one of them has your name on it. What do you mean? property records show he's been buying distressed houses, flipping them and selling them at huge profits. Nothing wrong with that, except 3 of the recent purchases were made using credit applications with your information. I nearly choked on my coffee. He's using my identity? Not exactly. The applications show your income, your credit score, your employment history, but they're all legitimate purchases under his name. My guess? Someone with access to your personal information has been feeding it to him. Someone like my wife, who handled our finances and had access to all my personal documents. There's more, Tony continued. I talked to a buddy in financial crimes. Word is, Kessler's company is in trouble. They're bleeding money, and he's been using these property deals to stay afloat. If this thing goes south, and your name's on any of the paperwork, I could be on the hook for fraud. Exactly. And if Maya files for divorce after you're arrested, she gets everything while you're fighting criminal charges. I sat back in my chair, finally seeing the full picture. This wasn't just an affair. This was a con job. And I was the mark. Time to remind everyone why I used to carry a badge. That afternoon, I paid another visit to Zach's office building. This time, I came prepared with some of my old surveillance equipment from my security business. Nothing illegal, just some basic recording devices that I had every right to use in a public parking garage. I also brought a portable toilet I'd rented for a client's construction site. Zach emerged from the elevator at exactly 6:15, just like he had every day for the past week. Creatures of habit are so predictable. "Mr. Kessler," I called out as he approached his still reeking BMW. "Ray Harlan, I think we need to talk." He turned around with that practiced smile of his, but I could see the fear in his eyes. "Ray, what a surprise. Maya's told me so much about you." "I bet she has? Probably mentioned how stupid I am, right?" His smile faltered. "I'm not sure what you mean." "Cut the shit, Zach. I know about the affair, I know about the property deals, and I know about the credit applications. What I don't know is whether you're just an idiot or if you actually thought you could get away with it. Look, Ray, I think there's been some misunderstanding." I stepped closer, letting him see exactly how serious I was. "The only misunderstanding is you thinking I'm some dumb ex-cop who wouldn't notice his wife sneaking around and his credit being used to fund your little real estate empire." "I never used your credit. I don't know what you're talking about." "Then you won't mind if I call the police and have them investigate? I'm sure they'd love to go through your financial records with a fine-tooth comb." That's when Zach made his first mistake. Instead of continuing to deny everything, he got angry. "You can't prove anything," he snapped. "And even if you could, Maya's already made her choice. She's leaving you, Ray. Face it. You lost." I smiled then, and something in my expression must have scared him because he took a step back. "You know what your problem is, Zach. You think this is some kind of romantic movie where the rich guy gets the girl and rides off into the sunset. But this is real life, and in real life, actions have consequences." I grabbed him by his expensive tie and shoved him backward into the portable toilet I'd positioned behind his car. Before he could react, I slammed the door and used the external latch to lock him inside. "Here's the thing about portable toilets," I called through the door. "They're soundproof, and this parking garage doesn't get much foot traffic after 6. I could hear him pounding on the walls and shouting, but the sound was muffled. "I'm going to leave you in there to think about your life choices," I continued. "The latch will open from the outside in about an hour when the timer I set goes off. That should give you plenty of time to consider whether you really want to keep playing games with me." I walked over to his BMW and used my keys to carve a simple message into the paint on his driver's side door. "Cheaters stink." Then I got in my truck and drove home, where Maya was waiting with another elaborate story about working late. This time I just nodded and smiled. "That's nice, honey. How's Zach doing? Still helping him with those business emergencies?" The color drained from her face, but she recovered quickly. "I don't know what you mean." "Sure you don't. By the way, I've been thinking we should refinance the house. You know, take advantage of these low interest rates. I'll need you to gather up all our financial documents tomorrow. Why? Just want to make sure everything's in order. You never know who might be using your information these days. She excused herself to take a shower, and I heard her whispering frantically on the phone, probably warning Zach if he'd managed to get out of his temporary prison by now. Let her warn him. I was just getting started. The next morning brought a visit from Detective Mike Sullivan, my old rival from the force. Mike had always resented the fact that I'd made detective before him, and he'd never missed a chance to remind me why I'd left the department. "Ray," he said when I opened the door, "we need to talk." "Morning, Mike. Coffee?" "This isn't a social call. I got a complaint last night. Seems someone locked Zach Kessler in a portable toilet and vandalized his car." I raised my eyebrows in mock surprise. "That's terrible. Did they catch who did it?" "Funny thing about that. Mr. Kessler seems to think you might know something about it." "Me? Why would I know anything about Zach Kessler's problems?" Mike stepped into my living room uninvited. "Maybe because your wife's been sleeping with him for the past 4 months?" "That's a hell of an accusation, Mike. You got any proof of that?" "I got proof that you were in that parking garage yesterday evening. Security cameras show your truck." I nodded thoughtfully. "You're right. I was there. Had a meeting with a client on the 4th floor. Henderson Security Services. You can check with them if you want. Meeting ran until about 6:30. "And you didn't see Kessler?" "Saw him getting into his car when I was leaving. Seemed upset about something. His car smelled terrible, like rotten fish. I figured he'd had some kind of food spill." Mike's jaw tightened. He knew I was lying, but he couldn't prove it. "Ray, if you're planning something stupid..." "Mike, I'm a licensed security consultant with no criminal record and an exemplary service record with the department. What exactly are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting you stay away from Zach Kessler." "Happy to. I don't even know the guy." After Mike left, I called Tony with an update. "You locked him in a porta potty?" Tony was laughing so hard he could barely speak. "Jesus, Ray, you're lucky he didn't press charges." "He can't press charges without admitting why he was in that parking garage in the first place. Besides, I've got bigger problems. Maya tried to file a domestic violence complaint against me last night." "What?" "Sullivan mentioned it. Apparently I've been threatening and intimidating her. Good thing I've got those recordings of our conversations." "Ray, this is getting serious. Maybe you should just file for divorce and be done with it." "Can't do that, Tony. If I file first, it looks like I'm the one breaking up the marriage. But if Maya files, and I can prove adultery and financial fraud, I get everything. And if you're wrong, then I lose everything anyway. But at least this way, I go down swinging." That afternoon, I decided to pay a visit to Maya's real estate office. I'd always gotten along well with her boss, Jerry Patterson, mainly because he was a sleazy bastard who appreciated my direct approach to problem solving. "Ray!" Jerry stood up from his desk when I walked in. "Good to see you, buddy. Maya's not here. She's out showing properties." "Actually, Jerry, I wanted to talk to you. Got a minute?" He gestured to a chair, and I sat down. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be straight with me. Has Maya been conducting personal business on company time?" Jerry's smile faded. "What do you mean?" "I mean, has she been using her access to property records and financial databases for anything that's not directly related to her job here?" "Ray, I can't discuss Maya's work performance with you. That's between her and the company." I leaned forward. "Jerry, I'm not asking as her husband. I'm asking as someone who's about to file a complaint with the state licensing board about a real estate agent who's been using her position to facilitate identity theft and mortgage fraud." That got his attention. "Identity theft?" "Someone's been using my personal information to secure financing for property deals. Someone with access to my financial records, my credit report, and my employment history. Someone who knows exactly how much money I make and what my credit score is." Jerry was quiet for a long moment. "Ray, if you're accusing Maya of..." "I'm not accusing anyone of anything, yet. But if the state board decides to investigate, They're going to want to look at all of Maya's recent transactions. They're going to want to see her computer records, her client files, her communications with mortgage brokers and property investors. I stood up to leave. Just thought you should know what might be coming down the pike. You might want to start thinking about how to protect the company's reputation. 3 hours later, Maya called me in tears. Ray, Jerry fired me. He said there were complaints about my conduct, but he wouldn't tell me what kind of complaints. Did you have something to do with this? Why would I have anything to do with your job, Maya? Because you're trying to punish me. For what? You know for what? Actually, I don't. Why don't you tell me exactly what you think I should be punishing you for? She hung up on me. That evening, I got a call from Zach. His voice was shaking with rage. You son of a bitch! You got Maya fired. I don't know what you're talking about, Zach. Don't play dumb with me. I know it was you. Prove it. I don't have to prove anything. I've got information about you that could ruin your life. Such as? Such as why you really left the police force. I've got friends who know people, Ray. I know about the incident with the evidence locker. I know about the money that went missing. My blood went cold. The evidence locker incident had been buried deep, and only a few people knew the real story. I don't know what you think you know, Zach, but I know enough. Back off, or I'll make sure everyone in town knows what kind of cop you really were. He hung up, leaving me staring at the phone. Zach had just made his second mistake. The first was sleeping with my wife. The second was threatening me with something that could destroy my life. Time to show him what a real mistake looked like. The next morning, I woke up with a plan. Not just any plan. The kind of plan that would make Sun Tzu proud and leave my enemies wondering what the hell had hit them. First, I called my sister Jenna, who worked as a paralegal for one of the best law firms in the city. I need a favor, I told her, and it needs to be completely legal and completely devastating. What's going on, Ray? I filled her in on everything. The affair, the property fraud, the blackmail attempt, all of it. Jesus, Ray, why didn't you call me sooner? Because I wanted to handle it myself, but now it's gotten too big for just me. What do you need? I need you to file papers transferring all of our joint assets into a trust with you as the trustee. I need it done today, and I need it to be completely legal and binding. Ray, I can't just... Jenna, they're planning to frame me for fraud and then take everything in the divorce. If I don't move our assets now, I'll lose everything anyway. There was a long pause. How much are we talking about? The house, both cars, our savings accounts, my business, everything. About $400,000 total. I'll make some calls. While Jenna worked on the legal side, I focused on the public relations aspect of my revenge. I'd learned a long time ago that in a small city like ours, reputation was everything, and I was about to destroy 2 reputations in one spectacular move. That afternoon, I drove to the Riverside Country Club, where the monthly real estate association meeting was being held. Maya had dragged me to enough of these events that I knew exactly how they worked. A bunch of real estate agents, mortgage brokers, and property investors getting together to network and gossip. Perfect. I waited in the parking lot until I saw Maya arrive with Zach. They were trying to be discreet, arriving in separate cars and entering the building 5 minutes apart. But I'd been watching them long enough to know their patterns. I gave them 20 minutes to get settled, then I walked into the meeting like I owned the place. Ray? Called out Sandra Mitchell, the association president. What a surprise! Maya didn't mention you were coming. It's a surprise for her too, I said with a smile. Is there any way I could say a few words to the group? I've got some information that I think everyone should hear. Sandra looked confused but nodded. Of course. We're just finishing up the monthly reports. I walked to the front of the room, where about 60 of the city's real estate professionals were seated at round tables. Maya was sitting near the back with Zach, and both of them looked like they'd seen a ghost. Good afternoon, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Ray Harlan. I'm married to Maya Harlan, who some of you know as one of the top agents in the city. There were polite nods and smiles around the room. I'm also a licensed private investigator and security consultant, and I'm here today to talk to you about a problem that's affecting our entire industry: identity theft and mortgage fraud. The smiles faded. This wasn't the kind of topic people expected at a networking meeting. Over the past few months, I've been investigating a case involving the illegal use of personal information to secure financing for property investments. Someone has been using stolen identity information to qualify for loans, then flipping properties and keeping the profits while leaving the identity theft victims liable for the debt. I could see Maya trying to get Zach's attention, but he was staring at me like a deer in headlights. Now I know what you're thinking. This kind of thing happens all the time, and it's usually some random criminal using information they bought on the dark web. But this case is different. This case involves someone in this room. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. The person I'm investigating had access to detailed financial information, credit reports, and employment records. They used this information to help a property investor secure financing for deals that he couldn't qualify for on his own. And when the scheme started to unravel, they tried to frame the identity theft victim for the crime. I pulled out a manila folder and held it up. I've got bank records, loan applications, email communications, and recorded phone conversations that prove everything I'm saying. And tomorrow morning, I'm turning all of this evidence over to the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. That's when Zach stood up. This is ridiculous. Ray, you're obviously having some kind of breakdown. Am I, Zach? Because I've got a recording of you telling my wife that I'm too stupid to figure it out, and that you'd be long gone with everything before I realized what was happening. I pressed play on my phone, and Zach's voice filled the room. Don't worry, baby. Ray's too stupid to figure it out. By the time he realizes what's happening, we'll be long gone with everything. The room erupted in whispers and gasps. Maya looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. I've also got evidence of the affair, I continued, including photographs, text messages, and witness statements. But that's a personal matter between me and my wife. The fraud, however, is a matter for law enforcement. Zach was on his feet now, his face red with anger. You can't prove anything. This is all circumstantial bullshit. Is it? Then you won't mind if I share some of the details with everyone here? I opened the folder and pulled out a sheet of paper. Property at 1247 Oak Street, purchased 6 months ago using a loan application that included my income information, my credit score, and my employment history. Loan secured by Innovate Tech Solutions, Zach Kessler, President. Property sold 3 weeks later for a profit of $85,000. Zach's business partner, Ricky Morales, stood up from a table near the front. Zach, what the hell is he talking about? Ricky, don't listen to him. He's just trying to... Property at 892 Elm Street, I continued. Same pattern. My information, Zach's company, $60,000 profit. Zach, Ricky was shouting now. You told me you qualified for those loans yourself. I did qualify. This is all lies. I pulled out another paper. Email from Ray Harlan to Zach Kessler, dated 3 weeks ago. Ray's credit score went up 5 points this month. Should be enough to qualify for the Henderson Street property. He's working late tomorrow, so I can get his tax returns copied then. The room was in chaos now. Ricky was screaming at Zach, Maya was crying, and everyone else was talking at once. The best part, I said, raising my voice above the noise, is that they were planning to frame me for the fraud after they cleaned out our joint bank accounts and filed for divorce. That's when Sandra Mitchell stood up. Ray, I think we need to call the police. Already done, I said. Detective Sullivan should be here any minute. As if on cue, Mike Sullivan walked through the door with 2 other officers, but I wasn't finished yet. There's one more thing, I announced. Maya, Zach, I've got a little surprise for you both. I pulled out my phone and opened the Facebook Live app. I'm broadcasting this whole thing live on social media. We've got about 300 viewers right now, including most of your friends, family members, and business associates. Maya screamed, actually screamed like she was being murdered. The beautiful thing about the internet, I continued, is that once something goes viral, it never really goes away. So even if you two somehow beat the fraud charges, everyone will always know exactly what kind of people you are. Zach tried to rush me, but Ricky grabbed him first. The two of them went down in a tangle of expensive suits and flying fists. Mike Sullivan was trying to restore order, but the damage was done. Maya was sobbing hysterically, Zach was bleeding from his nose, and the entire room was recording everything on their phones. Ray Harlan, everyone, I said to my phone camera. Thanks for watching How to Destroy Your Cheating Wife and Her Boyfriend in One Easy Step. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I ended the live stream and walked over to where Maya was sitting. You can go home now, Maya, I said quietly. Oh wait, you don't have one anymore. I transferred everything to my sister this morning. Completely legal, by the way. I had a very good lawyer check all the paperwork. She looked up at me with mascara streaming down her face. Ray, please, we can work this out. Work what out? The part where you stole my identity? The part where you planned to frame me for fraud? Or the part where you've been screwing your ex-boyfriend in our bed for the past 4 months? I never meant for it to go this far. Sure you did. You just never meant to get caught. Mike Sullivan appeared at my elbow. Ray, we need to talk. About what? About all of this. You can't just destroy people's lives and broadcast it on the internet. I didn't destroy anything, Mike. I just revealed what was already there. Maya and Zach destroyed their own lives the minute they decided to commit fraud and adultery. And the identity theft allegations? Are all documented and ready for investigation. I've got copies of everything for the FBI, the State Attorney General's office, and the Real Estate Licensing Board. Mike shook his head. You always were a vindictive son of a bitch. No, Mike. I was a good cop who got screwed over by politics and corruption, but I'm an even better private investigator. I looked around the room one more time. Zach was in handcuffs, Maya was being questioned by another officer, and everyone else was staring at me like I'd just performed a magic trick. Ladies and gentlemen, I announced, this concludes today's presentation on the importance of honesty in business relationships. Thank you for your attention. I walked out of the country club and got in my truck. My phone was buzzing with notifications from the live stream, hundreds of comments, shares, and reactions. The video already had over 1,000 views and was climbing fast. Maya had texted me one last time. I hope you're happy now. I texted back, I'm getting there. As I drove home, to my sister's house, since I'd technically made myself homeless in the process of destroying my enemies, I reflected on the events of the past week. Maya and Zach were facing federal fraud charges. Maya had lost her job and her reputation. Zach's business was finished, and his partnership with Ricky was over. They'd both been publicly humiliated in front of everyone they knew. And me? I'd lost my wife, my house, and probably most of my friends. But I'd kept my dignity, my self-respect, and my sense of justice. More importantly, I'd proven that Ray Harlan wasn't someone you could lie to, cheat on, steal from, and blackmail without consequences. She'd texted, fell asleep at my friend's place at 3 a.m. I'd replied, say hi to your ex, and sent her a photo that changed everything. Now, she could say hi to rock bottom.